We're joined by, well, maybe you could tell us what to do, Rachel, right? Rachel Doherty joins us from ROWI Teen and Parent Wellness, and 280 kids. Wow.
That's a lot.
A lot of candy bars. Maybe
Yeah.
not, yeah. So, hey, I was joking with you before you came on, and I said, maybe we should talk about parent senility, keeping their wits about them because the kids
Yes.
are home now.
Yes.
And now you have to deal with your children all day.
Yes.
So what are some of the things the parents can do other than run away
Uh,
to help deal with their teens?
the number one thing is modeling appropriate behavior. So it's especially difficult because a lot of the parents right now, right, they're working from home, especially with COVID, or they're doing a hybrid model. So where typically they'd be at work all day and their kids would be maybe unsupervised, well, now they're home trying to work. So it's almost a blessing and a curse at the same time because, which is better, I don't know. But they definitely want to model appropriate behavior. If you don't want your kid sitting around watching TV, sitting on their phone all day, you can't be doing that either, right? If you don't want your kid popping off at the mouth, being rude and disrespectful, you can't be doing that either when you're stressed. So having them appropriately manage their stress and getting support is so important because it trickles down. And a lot of times we hear from our teenagers is, well, I talk like that because my parents talk to me like that. And it's like, okay, well, right, doesn't make it right. However, sometimes someone has to stop the cycle, and the burden is in the parents as the adults in the room to start that train.
Now, quick question for this advice here, because when it comes to kids, there are like different phases. Is this
Yes.
just general, like any age kind of thing, or is there a specific age range that this really applies to?
So modeling appropriate behavior is every single age, from the minute they're born up until they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, right? Because no matter how old they get, they're still your kid and you're still their parent.
So true.
Yeah. So there's different things you can disclose to them, right, as you get older that are age appropriate, but modeling is always going to be the number one thing.
You're right, because I've got, my oldest is in his 40s. And you're right. I tease them sometimes when I come over and say, look, you're always going to be my kids,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not,
Yeah.
okay? But you're right about, behavior, modeling what you want from them and that kind of stuff. One of the things I go back and forth with them about is you do not have to tell your kids about every stupid thing, illegal thing, bad thing you did as a teenager, because even if you say, I learned from that, I learned how bad that was, their mindset is, well, you did it, you're still here, you're still alive, you're doing okay.
Bingo.
Right?
So must not have been that bad. And that's because their frontal lobe is still developing, and we know that, unfortunately, they think that they're invincible, so they don't, developmentally, they don't have that forward thinking of, but this could have happened, because all I hear is, well, it didn't, so it's fine. And you definitely don't have to over-disclose that. At ROWI, we will self-disclose sometimes to the kids as it's appropriate. And we always think, is this clinically appropriate to help them? And there's a way to get the message across without telling all the gory details, right? And I think that takes a lot of tact, and it takes a lot of control and purpose of, why are you telling your kid this? What's the purpose of this? Are you trying to be cool and be their friend, right? Or are you trying to really relate to them and show empathy?
The good thing is that I think this next younger generation, when they get old enough, they're also not going to disclose because they don't have to. It's all on TikTok. It's all on social media.
Yeah, that's a whole nother set.
Thank God that the interweb wasn't around when I was a kid.
Yeah, I could do a whole 15-hour thing on that.
So, I know I'm going all over the place with you, but some of the stuff is coming to me as you're talking.
Yeah.
And as of late now, we're hearing more and more and more about smartphones,
Yes.
time on the screen.
Yes.
And the articles that I'm reading and some of the experts I have all say the same thing. Parents are deathly afraid of taking the phone away from their child. But if your kid was drowning, wouldn't you reach out to save them?
Yes, and that's definitely parenting from fear, because unfortunately it creates this feedback loop where the kids will say, well, if you don't give me my phone, then I'm going to do this, or if you don't give me my phone, then I'm going to make your life difficult. So it becomes this fear response, and our CEO, Dr. Candice Feinberg, has a whole book about that we give all of our parents when they admit for free. It's called No Parent Left Behind, and it's all about parenting from fear, that exact thing, because that's probably the number one thing we hear from parents is, well, I can't take their phone away. Well, why not? It's not a right? If they're not being safe on it, or it's becoming a problem, you're the parent, right? Who's paying for it? Who's paying for the Wi-Fi?
That's what I always
Whose
say.
house they live in? And I mean,
Sorry.
it's keeping the roles of you can be a parent and set boundaries, and kids need boundaries, adults need boundaries, we all do, no matter what the age, right?
So there's no excuse here as to like, oh, I can't, I'm not really technologically literate. Get your hands dirty. Go into, there are parental settings in these phones that you can set
Yes.
for yourself,
Yes.
and just get familiar with those settings.
Any phone company now, whether it's the Apple or the Androids, their helplines are so accessible. You can call and they'll talk to every parent in the world and just tell you how to do it. And there's nothing wrong with completely removing the phone. And sometimes the kids will say, well, then I can't reach out for help if I need it. Well, that's also a manipulation tactic, because they very much can. So again, we don't want them to rely on phones for anything. I always say, let's pretend the power's out. Let's pretend that cell phones didn't exist. And I tell them cell phones weren't a thing when I was your age, and they really don't believe it, but it's true.
I know, right?
So,
The one thing I never said to my parents is, I've lost my phone. All I had to do was grab the cord, and I could find it at the end of the cord.
So I always say,
it was.
we want to, if you're really struggling, we want to be able to speak to your parents, and if for some reason you can't, let's talk about that. So we really try and get them not dependent on the phones.
Communication,
Yes.
Joe.
Yeah,
Communication.
But don't they still make flip phones?
They do. They make jitterbug phones, right? Flip phones. And I'm a firm believer of go to Target, right? Get one of those burner phones, as they're called, right? And they're not a smartphone. And if you really want it, you can do that. And when we offer that, unfortunately, they say, well, then I can't go on social media. Well, that's not what you want the phone for then, to call for help. So
Right.
there's a bunch of options, and we offer them all.
You can text with a flip phone. You just
can-
have to press more buttons.
You can completely text with a flip phone. Yep, you can call 988, which is a mental health resource. You can text that, all with a flip phone.
So how do you combat a kid that's really implementing a lot of these like manipulative tactics of like, well, I really want this phone, so I'm gonna do, I'm essentially gonna act out
Yeah.
to try to get that phone back. What are some ways that like parents can try to ease that, or like try to go aside from that?
Lots of duct tape.
No, well, the first thing is knowing that they're not alone, and I think that's a huge thing, right? Because oftentimes they feel like they're backed against a wall. It's just them doing it, and that's not the case. So, getting support, whether it's like a parenting support coach, or even just like a mental health consult, whatever it may be. 988 is a great resource for that too, because parents can call and text that and say, hey, my kid's doing these manipulative behaviors. I'm worried that it might be a safety concern. And they can walk you through it. But the thing is to just confront it. I don't want to say I'm confrontational, but I am, because unfortunately when we tiptoe around, that's how these behaviors continue. So you just have to address it of, hey, I see you, using this as a manipulation tactic. This isn't going to work, right? This is what we're going to do. And it's just being consistent and follow through and say what you mean.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents, they often try to blur the line between like friend and
Yeah.
parent.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And
agree.
you definitely have to be parent first before friend at all.
And
Or
I
parent
always-
100%.
My favorite thing was, I don't need you to like me. I just need you to do what I told you to do.
Well, and we always, tell the kids when they say, well, why don't you convince my mom to let me, go do this? And I say, if I colluded with everything a 13, 14-year-old said, I wouldn't be doing my job,
Yeah, I
right?
don't-
And it's same with your parents. So really, it's these things that they think are silly now, but I say, just wait 3, 4, maybe 10 years to look back and say, wow, okay, I see why they did that. And unfortunately, I think that's probably everyone's experience of, I didn't like this at the time, but now that I'm older, I see it now. And I asked them, if you had a kid, would you let them? No, I wouldn't. Okay, so that's you as a 14, 15-year-old, knowing that you wouldn't even open that can of worms with the social media. So it's interesting if you reflect it like that.
Yeah, I'm seeing more and more and hearing about more and more of these psychotic episodes when those phones are taken away, or even when Facebook goes down for a couple of hours. I mean, that should tell you volume, should it not?
Well, and oddly, a lot of the panic is also from adults who are isolated at
Sure.
home, and it really goes back to when we use the phone or technology or social media as the only connection. What does go down? So they're behaving exactly like we would expect when they forget that, hey, you can go outside, right? There's so many other things that you can do. You can join clubs. I always tell the kids, hey, the SCV Parks and Recreation.
Jesse B. Who?
Community centers?
The community
Oh,
centers,
things,
yeah, like
things where you can do
magazine.
activities
Yeah, I say,
outside.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can get out there, you can meet people, you can talk in person. You
Oh,
don't.
no. We don't want to talk in person. I mean,
It's really getting them to get through that anxiety of things can break, or the internet can go off, or there's a fire and technology gets shut off, and you can manage and you'll be okay. But sometimes they just think that they can't, and we have to kind of push them through that and show them
Yeah,
that they can.
oftentimes I have to remind myself that as
Yeah.
an adult that
Yeah.
it's okay. Like, when we get a blackout or something and there's no more internet or like
Yeah.
cell service is gone, and I'm like,
I see it as a relief.
Yeah. Yeah.
I leave my phone at home and go to the store, and people are wigging on. I go,
I get stressed out, Joe. I
It's
need to
okay.
know. I need to be
if I
connected.
break down, I'll
Yeah.
take a nap till a cop shows up to help me out. I don't care.
What's that reinforcement of we're used to having everything right there?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that when it's not, of course we're going to be like, what's happening there?
True, and it's at least I feel like I'm okay because at least I wasn't totally in that generation of like on-demand stuff. Like if I want to watch a TV show, I had to wait for that day, that time
That's
to
right,
actually
yeah.
do it.
Sit through the commercials.
Sit through commercials. You know what I used to do? I used to tape them on VHS. I used
Oh,
to
yeah.
tape the shows on TV.
VH what? I'm sorry.
VHS. Have you heard of that? Came right after Betamax.
I still have a bunch of VHSs.
No, I think that a solid series of parenting classes, explaining to parents first of all what the kids are up to. I have conversations with some of my the drug counselors and people of my generation who are not paying attention today. I smoked a joint here and there. I did this. Right? It didn't bother me. Look where I'm at today. But today's marijuana, today's drugs are so much more potent, so much different than they were in the 60s and 70s. And didn't make it okay that I did it. But again, parents have this mindset, well, I did it and I'm fine.
Yes.
Actually, mostly we're talking about parent wellness because they're stuck home with the kids.
Yes. They got to model appropriate behavior. We can help them with that.
Or should I say the kids are stuck home with the parents? I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know which.
It's both.
I don't know which is worse. But again, I think part of the theme we were talking about in the last segment was this. Now you're home for the summer. Those young people are on the smartphones. They're on the internet. This is the way they communicate now. How do you help? I mean, how would you help them get together? Suggest to parents maybe, I don't want to call them play dates. I don't like that term, but get these kids together on doing something. Grab the ball, go to the beach with them. Grab the ball, help me.
So I think it's setting limits on the devices, number one. And then number two, taking the initiative and saying, this is what we're doing, right? This is where we're going to go. We're going to go with this friend, right? Or we're going to go with this sibling or whatever. And you just go. And even if the parents are exhausted, we get it, right? We're exhausted too. Maybe it's not the ideal thing that you want to do. But even just spending a half hour at the park, right, can make a huge difference to break it up and get them also that vitamin D, right, that fresh air. And a lot of times when they're outside, we take the kids on outings on Fridays, or we'll take them on walks, and they'll say, oh, I actually forgot how much I like going on walks. I actually forgot how much I like being outside. And they actually forgot how much they like just playing ping pong, right, and just doing those things that has no technology. So it's just really taking that initiative and following through. And if your kid's throwing a fit, oh, I don't want to go. Oh, well, come on, we're going to go, right? And, sometimes you have to do, hey, if you do this, right, then you can get your phone afterwards. But this is what we're doing. So it's just taking that initiative and following through, and then they'll remember that they like doing that stuff.
Do you have a class for parents to teach them how to just chew their tongue and go, come on, you're going with me?
Well, we try and model that for them. We have family sessions once a week when they're in PHP and every other week when they're in IOP. We have a parenting support coach that comes in once a month, and we work a lot with them, and we just normalize that, hey, this is frustrating, but there's a way through this, and it takes work and it takes effort, and it's okay to be frustrated, but right, we can't blow our top because then our kids watch that and then they blow their top, and now we're just stuck in this feedback reactivity loop, and that's not good for anybody.
Well, what's really funny is my daughter came over this weekend and she was talking about the summer camp that they used to go to. There was no electronic devices allowed there at all.
Yeah.
And she pretty much remembers every moment of all the fun that they had there.
And we don't allow cell phones when they're at our program. So when they're there all day, they check their phones in at the front. We say you don't even need them. If there's an emergency or something, right, the parents can call us. And they get used to it, and then they realize, oh, I don't need my phone as much as I thought I did. And it really makes a big difference because they're not distracted by it.
Well, I'll tell you what, over at the Heart District, we banned the phones at the junior high schools. Teachers saw a marked increase in the kids getting along. Better grades, better study habits, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, they learn those social skills because they have to.
Yeah.
Because they can't hide behind a phone.
Well, they were sitting, I think I've told you this before, they were all at the junior high school level when you go. They're all, yapping at each other in little groups. You go to the high school, they're all in little groups. They ain't talking to each other, though.
And that's how they
They're
learn
all
how
on
to
their
problem
phones.
solve. That's how they learn how to have conflict resolution. And we teach them those skills, too, during groups. But, it's the only way to do it is to do it. right?
Face to face. Well, we were talking to each other about this earlier this week, last week, about how the new kind of thing is they break up via text.
Yeah.
They quit their jobs via text, and you're going, is that what we've taught these kids?
It's
don't know.
easier, isn't it? Though.
Well, yeah,
Because that's
because-
the
I don't have to look
whole
at the pain in
mentality.
your
Is
face,
yeah, I
right?
don't have to
Right.
look at the.
And that's that avoidance piece. They're always avoiding something, right? Be it whether with technology, substance use, right?
Wow.
Excessive sleeping, whatever it may be, then I don't have to deal with those feelings. But unfortunately, those feelings are going to be there wherever, whether you don't get a job and you apply, right? Whatever it may be. And it's just learning that life skill of tolerating uncomfortable feelings, and you'll be okay.
Working through it.
Yeah.
All right. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, they want to get some help, they just want to ask some questions.
Yeah, the best way to reach us is to go to our website, ROWI Teen, ROWITEEN, like teenager.com. We have a bunch of different locations. We have one right here in Santa Clarita off Turney Road, and we do free assessments. They're welcome to call and take a tour of our center. Our program director is Lindsay Brazili. She's a licensed marriage family therapist as well. And we're very much willing to help, and it's no pressure. We just want to help, whether it's with us or we can point you in a more appropriate direction, whatever it may be.
Perfect. Rachel, thanks for being with us.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks for
your
having
time.
me. I'll see you guys next time.